So, good afternoon. My name is Drew Picard. I'm a 1L from Lafayette, Louisiana. And so about a month ago, I was in Mass, and there's a great homily about sort of renewing your prayer life. And the first time I prayed after that, God just plopped the idea for this talk into my head. So I figured it'd probably be pretty important to follow up on it. So I'd like to thank Professor Sneed and Dean Cole for their support in helping to get Father Jeff here talk on this important issue. And I'd really like to thank Phil Tran from DCC, because without him, I mean, this really wouldn't come together. So Father Jeff's pretty much known me before I was born. Been a friend of my family for a very long time. When we were talking last night, I asked him, like, is there anything you'd like me to say whenever I introduce you? And he goes, just this, if Forrest Gump was a priest, he'd have my life. So with that, we're going to start. Father Jeff, he is a native of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. He was ordained to the priesthood in the Diocese of Baton Rouge in 1979, and he spent 7 summers with Mother Teresa in Calcutta, where most famously he was the priest to administer Mother Teresa her last rites. Where am I on the long list of accomplishments? Father Jeff's had almost every job under the sun, from prison ministry to diocesan vocation director to Catholic TV host. He's currently the pastor of St. John the Evangelist Parish in Zachary, Louisiana, where he's been for 17 years. Yeah, 17 years. In addition to this, he is an internationally renowned expert on human trafficking. He's the founder of Metanoia Manor, which is a groundbreaking partnership between the church and the state of Louisiana to provide a home for girls who've been victims of human trafficking, ranging in age from 11 to 21. The fathers told me they've been requested to take victims as young as 4. And this cause has been one that's been very dear to my family. We've been involved with for a long time. So since taking their first girl in 2018, Metanoia has gone on to serve 78 girls and provide them with a place to rebuild their lives and hope for the future. And all of Father Jeff's work hadn't gone unnoticed. He's been invited to present before both the Pontifical Academy for Science and the Pontifical Academy for Social Science on the issue of human trafficking. And in 2019, he had the opportunity to bring Louisiana Governor John Bell Edwards and a number of state dignitaries to Rome to meet with the Holy Father and discuss how partnerships between the church and civil authorities can combat human trafficking. And one of his favorite memories from this trip, as well as one of my favorite memories, was he got my father to come out of his retirement from being an altar server for one time only, and suit up. And I asked my dad if I could share the pictures. I was told I was not allowed to. So with that being said, Father Jeff works closely with the Santa Marta Group, which is an alliance of bishops and law enforcement officials from around the world that seek to combat human trafficking, eventually, hopefully eradicate it. And with that being said, I think all of us are really thankful that you took the time to be up here and brave the weather and share the message with us about the important work you're doing. So I'd like to welcome Father Jeff Bayhi.
Nice introduction, but all that and $1, give me a cup of coffee at McDonald's since I'm a senior discount. Very glad to be with all of you here, and not so much about where we've been, where we've headed. And to talk about human trafficking, and there are just so many different ways to approach this. I always think that there is a premise that has to undergird everything that I say about the scourge of human trafficking. And the premise is that I believe that every one of us was created in the image and likeness of God. And I believe that every one of us was created for God. And I believe that every one of us is destined to be with God. And if any of those premises are offensive to you, I don't apologize for what I believe, but you probably won't like what I have to say. In the year 2022, since 2018, we have increased from 40 to 50 million slaves worldwide. 89.5% of the slaves worldwide are sold into the sex industry. The other 10.5% are either forced labor or organ procurement. We have more slaves in 2022 than we had in the 400 years of the African slave trade. Now, we all know what a sensitive society we live in. And a professor can lose their tenure for using the improper pronoun to refer to someone. And we have to be very careful of anything we say. And we got 50 million slaves under our nose today. And to me, it begs the question, how do we get here? How do we get to the point that we live in a society that human beings are being seen as a commodity? We live in a society, in a corporate world, that certainly thinks nothing of destroying the lives of many people who work so that they can increase their margins. We live in a society where people talk about friends with benefits and people hook up, and we don't really need to know who you are, but we both want the same thing. And so we can use another person simply for our pleasure. I don't need to know your name here, okay? We can use people, and that happens. And you know that happens. And we get to the point that if we think we can take another human being and we can own them, we can sell them, we can rent them. I'm not talking about a trailer for the back of your car. I'm talking about a human being. And even the thought that we can treat a human being as a matter of profit, pleasure, or possession is deeply, deeply offensive and destructive to the integrity of every person made in the image and likeness of God. And in my own mind, there is no worse offense to this than the pornography industry. $248 billion a year in the pornography industry. And as a Catholic priest for 44 years who hears confessions every day, I can tell you what an epidemic it is. It's mostly a male thing, but unfortunately it's getting a more female following. But between the ages of 12 and 90, what a problem online pornography is. I'm one of 5 children. I had 3 older brothers, and I laugh. I say, when I was a kid, I didn't have a device that I could get pornography anytime I wanted. I had to work for it, and I found it. I had to climb up in the closet, but I found my brother's Playboys, okay? But now the ready availability of this is incredible. During the pandemic shutdown, there's a place called Pornhub. Pornhub is your one-stop shop for everything pornographic. The largest demographic during the shutdown for the pandemic was 10 to 14-year-old little boys. 10 to 14-year-old little boys. We're raising a generation of young people who can never have a healthy, loving, responsible, intimate relationship if they think Pornhub is what adult sexuality is really all about. People do not swing from chandeliers at home, okay? That just doesn't happen. And so we've created that. And when people come to me in the confessional, do you marry? You have children? You have grandchildren? I want you to put on your screensaver a picture of your children and grandchildren. And next time you visit your favorite site, I want to know how you would feel if they were the ones performing in what you're getting ready to look at. See, we don't see them as someone's son, someone's daughter, someone's brother, someone's sister. We see them as an object to give me whatever pleasure I'm looking for when I get into that world. And so the devaluation and objectification of human life is a matter of profit, pleasure, or possession. That's the issue. That's the issue. Now, we can talk about human trafficking, but that's the symptom. The symptom is we see human life either as a choice, a profit, a possession, something we can use for ourselves. And one of the most egregious forms of that is when we get to the point that we think we can own, buy, use, or sell another person. We talked about my working in Calcutta with Mother Teresa, and that was just an incredible experience for me. But there was a young man, a young father who worked, and he watched the door at night to keep things locked up, and he was our night watchman. And Anthony and I were very, very good friends, and I'd seen him year after year after year and gone to his home and met his children. I mean, his home was a concrete room that had a mattress in it. And he thought he was so successful because his kids didn't get wet when it rained. So he was a great success. But anyway, I get there one year and Anthony comes to me, he's crying. His son got hit by a car. And, you know, kids in Calcutta are not all walking around with cell phones or, Apple Watches. And it was like 3 days before it was able to get back to him that his son was put in a clinic because his leg was broken. But what happened was, while he was in the clinic, some doctors came in and stole his cornea. They stole his cornea, and of course, they have a market in a first world country for good money for the cornea. And they went in, and of course, they knew what they were doing was wrong. They did it very quickly. They did it very sloppily, so much so that his eye was so infected that the good eye he was getting ready to lose. And Anthony came to me crying. He needed $750 for his son to have a surgery to save one good eye. And thankfully, I had the money. I was able to save his son's eye. But this is what happens when you see people as less than made in the image and the likeness of God. Talking about human trafficking, and I currently have a shelter in the Baton Rouge area. Obviously, its location is no more advertised than the location of the battered women's shelter. We don't, post that. But I have 5 incredible, wonderful religious sisters who live there. Now, 4 of them are registered nurses and one of them's an MSW, but they're there as mothers. And they're the most incredible women I'll ever meet, regardless of what you think of my talk and my efforts. The real heroes in this are not me. They're those wonderful, tremendous religious women who live with these girls 24/7. And they're incredible ladies. But I will give you a little bit of a global picture, and then I will come and give you a local picture of what we deal with in Louisiana. I work with the former human trafficking commissioner from Scotland Yard, a man by the name of Kevin Highland. And I work with the Vatican Commission called Santa Marta Group. And of course, we deal with it all over the world. But what happens is in third world countries, it becomes an economic issue. You know, someone goes, they're living, they got a thatch roof, they have a dirt floor. Oh, your daughter's so pretty, we can take her, we can bring her to the continent, we can get her a job as a waitress, we can get her a job as a nanny, we can get her a job, this, that, and the other. And, you know, and that's how they deceive them to get the mothers to let the girls go. On the African continent, it's a big problem because the recruiters are women within their own village. They call them madams. And the other part is really in rural parts of Africa, the witch doctor is still very much, he does the juju. And they don't just go, they go to the witch doctor first. And if you don't honor your commitments, you go crazy. And so we've got a number of mental factors working on our kids. But anyway, she'll get the kids. And once they get the children out of the country, they're sexually brutalized. They take all of their documents and they bring them in and wherever they're going in the country and they sell them. Okay. And the threat is you have to pay your trafficker for getting you to the continent. And so the average amount of favors for a young Nigerian girl would be 5,000 sexual favors. For the Albanians and the Romanians and the Bulgarians, it's about 3,000. But you have to pay back. But you never finish paying because when they do let you sleep, they charge you every night for where you sleep. And when they do give you something to eat, they charge you for every meal you eat. And so you never really do get caught up. But if you escape, your family will be killed. And they do. They do kill the families. And it has happened. You know, and that's pretty much the European sector. And I got a call 2 months ago, a priest from India, from northern India, and he said they have a lot of young girls who go and they go to Dubai, United Arab Emirates, and Saudi Arabia, and they go there to be house cleaners, nannies, whatever, domestic work. Well, when you don't perform the other expectations, and oftentimes that's forms of sexual abuse, your hands and your feet are amputated. This priest told me, he said, Father, I need help. I have 4,000 girls in my diocese who've come back as amputees. And it takes me $365 a year to take care of these children, but I don't have the money sources to take care of my children. And then the amount of people who are killed in transport. I mean, that doesn't matter. The Sahara Desert is loaded with skeletons where people have just in the voyage over. And they're non-people. They can't go and say, please rescue me. You have no documents, you have no anything, and they're just absolutely non-people. I was very lucky to work with a group in Nigeria, and I've had some wonderful heroes I'll tell you about if we have time. But I was able to open up a shelter in Lagos, Nigeria, and I was able to open up a shelter in Anzio Beach in Italy. And of course, I have my current shelter. Moving back to where I am, what time did we start? Trying to. Oh, okay. Moving back to Louisiana, one of the things that everyone believes is that human trafficking in the United States is what's happening on the borders. In almost 5 years, we've served 78 girls. Only one has been international. The others, 77, have been Louisiana residents, ranging from ages 11 to 17. 42% of our children in the state are trafficked by their primary caregiver. Think about that. Your own parents use you as a source of income, or your mother's boyfriend or your uncle or whatever. That reality is just horrendous, that these children are a source of income in their own families have sold them. When I met with the Department of Children and Family Services, they said, well, you know, our ultimate goal is family reunification. And excuse me for being crude, I said, bullshit, not gonna happen. I'm not putting those kids back to the same people who did what they did. I had a little girl, she was her father's 17th child by 11 different women. She was the first daughter. Dad soon realized you can do things with a daughter you can't do with a son. And then his brother, then his friends, she became a source of income, okay? And eventually, when she came, she was a wonderful, sweet child, you know, but we're a safe house. And we said, well, you know, Angie, what do you like to do? You like sports? She said, I like to fight. That's what my dad taught me to do, fight. So we don't fight here, you know. We really can't do that. I mean, we're a safe house. And she was doing wonderful and doing great in school and everything. And boy, something set her off. And she knew how to fight. She messed up a couple of the other little girls. We had to let her go. You know, we can't have a safe house and one child is going to hurt another. The state sent her back to her dad before she turned 18. So the challenges that we have, and I can go on, I can go on and on about the different cases and the different children. But one of the things you need to understand, and it was a lesson for me, when I opened the shelter, and Allie, the little girl that I was talking about, she was our second born. We call her our second born. And anyway, she woke up the next morning. She said, I think I'm in heaven. She said, my room is so wonderful. Well, the night before, she was in bed and she was crying. And one of the nuns went in and sat outside the bed and just rubbed her back until she fell asleep, and you're gonna be okay and everything like that. And she said, I've never had that. I've never had anyone like that. Her mother's a crackhead somewhere and doesn't know where her mother is. And so, you know, just a sweet, wonderful child. And that's what my nuns do. They connect with these children. And I'd love to tell you, oh, we got this one in Harvard studying criminal law. No, we don't. You know what success is for us? Success is, now each child has their own bedroom, their own bathroom, because that privacy in the bathroom was an issue after what the kids had been through. You know what success is for us? They've started trusting us. They'll now sleep in the bed and not in their closet. All of our kids sleep in their closet when they come because they're used to people coming in the middle of the night. And they figure if they're hiding in the closet, they won't find them. They'll think the room is empty. We've got our children who now are taking care of their teeth and brushing their teeth every day and actually taking care of their feminine needs, of which have been tremendously violated. That's success for us. Our children have completed some high school, some have gotten college credits and that sort of thing. But the amount of damage that these children have suffered is incredible. And with that little girl that I'm telling you about, you know, and it was her birthday and we went for her birthday, me and the sheriff who works with me, we were both crying. She got up to give a talk about what this place meant. We were both crying. But that same child, 15 minutes later, can throw a chair through the window, take, you know, a knife off the table and say, I'm going to kill everybody in this place. I can't wear fragrance when I go there, not that I wear it, but if I would wear cologne, I can't wear cologne over there because just that smell, you know. We had one little girl who had only been abused by older men. The priest who works with me, his hair is whiter than mine is. So we had to be very, very careful. The bishop from the Vatican comes regularly and he came in, the little girl freaked out. He looked just like the last person that had bought her and abused her and done that. So our challenges are many. And with that in mind, I said I would talk for a half an hour and give you all the chance to ask questions.
Thank you so much, Father Jeff, for your witness, for your commitment to upholding the dignity of every child in this very difficult topic. So thank you everyone so much for being here. I think that Father touched on a lot of difficult things, but there is hope and but there's also call to action. And that here being a place of learning is an opportunity to be informed about these topics and to know how to interact with them now and to be aware of the issue that this is. So thank you so much for Aberdeen Law School, as well as the Nicholas Center for Ethics and Culture for sponsoring this event. Thank you so much for everyone who here who has attended. Thank you to Drew for helping to make this possible and for his connection with Father Jeff, once again an expert in this field.